Hi. I'm experiencing this real clean, clear kind of hopelessness today. It's that. It's like it's a hopelessness that's not tainted by any kind of self hate or anger. I don't know. Just kind of, I guess, giving up hoping in this world, even hoping in relationship. I guess I have this dream of being held, you know? I think we all have that. I've been having visions recently of the womb. Like being held in amniotic fluid. There's these pictures we have, it's almost like these kind of golden profiles of an infant's face. They're huddled in the womb. I've even been wondering if maybe I've been remembering a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just the pictures and some kind of sense of peace. I saw a child playing in the park yesterday, like 2.5 years old, and the way she just ran around without any purpose or self-awareness, And I thought as I was watching her that I thought I could remember that. I, there was a moment where I was like, there was a little light that came on of what it was like to be very young and just to be conscious but not really have a developed sense of self-awareness. And I thought that I could remember the joy, and I also thought that I could remember the fear too. How just unexpectedly I would be just like, oh, whoa, something's gone very wrong, and just not having any self-awareness to be able to process that change or any filters to hide that, or just that. Yeah, there seems to be still this 46-year-old man who's still hoping for some kind of life. I walk by houses here in Denver sometimes and I look at a porch and I'm like, that looks homey. I look in there and I think oh wow, that's somebody's home. And I have a place to stay right now, but I don't have a home. And that really is making some changes in me. It's causing it's the catalyst for some kind of change that's happening in my being. I've just kind of stopped, you know. And I did have there was this long distance relationship that I was putting some hope in it. I can see now. And it was kind of really bringing me a lot of joy. It was bringing this 46-year-old man some joy, like there was kind of this hope for a future there. And recently there was a change in that. It was like the supports to that hope were kind of removed. And I think that's a good thing too. There's no complaint here because this is all just a big experiment. I've always wanted to know kind of what would happen if you just stopped. What happens if you just stop playing by all the rules that you're told all your life that you have to play by? One of my favorite, Eckhart Tolle, he had an awakening experience, and he spent 2 or 3 years homeless, I guess, sitting on park benches. I don't really know his story, but I guess there's a context. Sometimes we just need context, maybe, for something that's happening in our lives, right? So there's one I could tell the story of just like, oh, I'm just a hopeless homeless man. That's once. Or I could tell this. There could be another story of like, oh, this dude's just waking up, or that 46-year-old man is kind of dying to himself. Or maybe there's just no story at all. Maybe that's the problem, is that I'm still hanging on to the story, right? I mean, that's the thing is, intellectually I can make all of these ascents, yet I've heard that the furthest distance in the universe is from here to here. And I think that may be true. I went on a series of psychedelic journeys about the end of last year. The first message I got on these journeys was, hey, things aren't nearly as solid as you think they are. Yeah, that was the first message, and really one of the only messages I recall, honestly. I remember them they were all very life-affirming experiences, even the scary stuff that happened, But I had these visions of a moth. The first thing that happened was I heard a fluttering in my ear. There was a fluttering in my ear. And then, many weeks later, on another journey, I had a vision of the moth as the Christ. I saw this moth struggling up a blanket in its final moments, and I watched the life go from it, and I had a vision in that moth. And then the final vision of the moth that I had was weeks after that one. Weeks and weeks after that one, maybe months. Anyway, it was another dying moth, and this moth was shuddering, fluttering, like how they do when they're in their dying moments or their dying hours, and they kind of flutter around on the ground. This one was in a backyard, and I was watching this moth, and just witnessing him in his last hours here on Earth. And he began to crawl up this blade of grass. The moth was he just looked like he was just still trying to be a moth. He was crawling up this blade of grass, just crawling. And then he got to the top, and there was a little part that was hanging over, and he held on to the blade of grass. And like with one hand, this moth was holding on to this blade of grass, and he was just, and I wondered to myself, now what does he think he's doing? And I was just kind of like, why don't you just give it up, buddy? But I guess he didn't have a context for giving it up, right? I don't know. The moth brain doesn't understand the ego death, or has no concept of that there might be some kind of life after the death of false self. That's a pretty heavy one, right? A pretty light one. Yeah. There's that moth. I still see him, and I feel like that moth now. I'm shuddering and fluttering and climbing up to the top of a blade of grass, making these videos, like hoping somehow, I guess maybe that, I don't know, back to that idea of being held. Like, I just want to be held. And I think that's pretty common. That's why we have relationships. That's why we have homes. That's why we go to work, to try to build some kind of security for ourselves. We want to have people in our lives who are stable and secure. I guess the Christ story kind of shows us that this death of the false self needs to be kind of a voluntary thing, right? Like, those guys came to get to get Jesus, and Peter was there, and he was like, "Son of a bitch! I'll cut his ear off." he cut that dude's ear off, and the Christ was like, "Oh, hold on, this is not how this is going. I'm gonna put the ear back on the dude, and I'm going voluntarily to this death, right?" And even before, I guess he had a talk with Peter. He had been like, "Okay, come here, man. Give me a hug. I'm going to tell you something. Look, the way this is going to go is like this. I'm going to my death, and you're going to freak out. In fact, before the rooster crows in the morning, you will have betrayed me 3 times. No, I would never betray you. It's okay. Come here, bud. Give me a hug. I love you." It's because we can't help but struggle like that moth, right? We're just like, "Oh God." When the death of false self comes, it wouldn't be a death of false self if it wasn't uncomfortable, right? I just want to be held. This is different than it's been before. Suicide, I think, is kind of an impersonation of the death that we truly need to experience. I think that's kind of what that's about. It's like we know we need to die. I know I need to die. I know I need to die. Right? I think this is one thing that seems to be unique about humanity, is that we have this awareness that there's something false about us that needs to go. Wow. What a deal, huh? Isn't that interesting? We know there's something false in us that needs to die. And I think we all have that. Get real. Come on, keep it real. We all have this understanding, don't we? Get real with me. Isn't that what we're all trying to do, is kind of get real? We want to be authentic. We want to be genuine. We want to talk with and have relationships with genuine and authentic people. But we kind of play this hide and seek, don't we? What an interesting experience to say yes. And I'm struggling. Climbing to the top of that blade of grass, holding on. Going from here to there. Not really knowing, I'm in Key West. I'm in Oklahoma. I'm in Denver. I think I need to be doing this. I think I need this. I think I need that. Truthfully, I don't know. I don't know how this goes. And I guess that's the thing. We've got to be comfortable with the unknown, with the uncertainty. And I think that's kind of what's happened recently this last year with the COVID thing for many of us, is that we're faced with the uncertainty that already so much of the rest of the world already understands and already knows. But all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, we don't know what's going to happen. Oh my goodness, this is so scary. Let's start doing arts and crafts. Start making videos kind of showing how we're all okay. We all know something's not quite authentic about this whole experience, don't we? We're kind of waking up to that fact. We're seeing through the illusion, right? So many of us now seeing through the illusion. So as we see through the illusion, the death of false self needs to be accompanied by by forgiveness, if there's to be a true resurrection afterwards. That's how I understand the story. So here we are. I know I'm not alone. I know I am not alone. And if you've watched for 14 minutes, you probably know you're not alone too, or maybe you're hoping that you're not alone. You're not alone. I'm right here with you. Everything's going to be all right. even if it feels real hopeless. That's the beauty. God bless you, my friend. God bless you.